This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Tanner Kern, who does such great work over at DraftKings. We're going to be talking about all that we saw at the trade deadline, some of the immediate returns that some of these guys have been making, and just how wide open it is in both the National League and the American League this season to perhaps break down a World Series title. And then in the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they are making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want. When you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That's going to get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. And Edge Boost makes sure that 100% of gambling transactions are always approved, and coupled with that, you earn cashback rewards as you utilize Edge Boost as well. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Wednesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Your top road under team in all baseball played another under as the Baltimore Orioles were able to get the win over the Philadelphia Phillies. This by a count of 5-1. As for the Orioles, 20 overs, 39 unders, and 2 pushes when they've been away from home, and Trevor Rogers continues to be great. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings, did allow 8 hits, but mitigated the damage. Dietrich Enns, 2 scoreless innings, and Keegan Aiken, a scoreless inning, as you did have Kobe Mayo get his 4th home run season. That comes off of 1 out Ranger Suarez, who gave up 5 runs in 6 in the 3rd innings. Jordan Romano from there, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Joe Ross and Alan Ragnall were able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And for the Phillies, 1 of 10 with men in scoring position. The Guardians, all of a sudden, clawing their way back in terms of the wild card race out there in the American League. How about them getting the job done 4-1 against the Mets? And they have now played on the road this year, 23 overs, 30 unders, and 5 pushes. As for Cleveland, rock solid start out of Gavin Williams in 2/3 innings. Very nearly had the complete game, and he threw 126 pitches, but gave up a home run in the 9th inning to Juan Soto, 26th home run of the campaign. From there, you got an out of the bullpen from Hunter Gaddis to get the save. Pair of bombs for the Cleveland Guardians. Angel Martinez, his 10th home run season off of David Peterson, great name, and David Fry, 6th home run season as Peterson gives up both bombs, 4 runs in total in 6 innings. Reed Garrett, a scoreless inning, and Justin Hagenman, he was able to give you 2 scoreless innings as well. For the San Francisco Giants, they get a 4-2 win in this one over the Pittsburgh Pirates. As for the Buccos, they have been really a challenge with regards to their offense, and Robbie Ray has been rock solid. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. Jose Buto, Ryan Walker, Randy Rodriguez, all in this scoreless inning. And for Jair Encarnacion, 2nd home run season and 2nd in the last 7 days. That comes off of Andrew Heaney. Although that's home run in 4 2/3 innings, he wasn't too bad. From there, Dennis Santana, 1 1/3 innings, allows 2 runs. Ryan Baruchi, he gets out of the bullpen scoreless. Isaac Manson, though, gives up a run in 1/3 of an inning. Dodi Medetta, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Carmen Blodzinski 1 2/3 innings scoreless. He had the Cubs be able to get a win over the Cincinnati Reds, this by a count of 6-1. As for the Chicago Cubs, they did a very nice job of getting to Andrew Abbott, who gave up 4 runs in 6 2/3 innings, including a pair of homers. Dansby Swanson, his 18th home run season, and you also had C.A. Suzuki get his 27th home run season. Then Ian Happ said, "Happy hooray" to getting home run number 16 of the campaign. As for the Cincinnati Reds, you had Luis May giving an out of the bullpen scoreless, and Osvar Zoleta, he was the man that gave up that home run. 2 runs a total over the course of an inning for the Reds. Not a lot doing against Cade Horton. 5 2/3 innings scoreless. Did have Daniel Palencia give up a run in an inning, but Andrew Kittredge, Brad Keller both give you a scoreless inning, and Drew Pomeranz out of the bullpen scoreless of his own. For the LA Dodgers, they've been one of your top over teams in all of baseball, especially at home this year. As at home, they're up to 34 overs, 23 unders, and 2 pushes, but this was not one of them. They fall to the St. Louis Cardinals 5-3 as Matthew Liberatore, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, given up in 4 innings, including a home run to Shohei Ohtani, 39th home run season. And Ohtani allows just 1 run in 4 innings on the mound to Justin Robelski, pretty solid as a bulk guy, 1 run allowed in 3 innings. But Alex Vesia, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in his inning work, hurt by an error by Alex Freeland out there in the field. And then you had Rock and Roll Stewart give up a run in an inning, and they couldn't hit the Cardinals bullpen as Kyle Leahy, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. Jojo Romero was able to give you a scoreless inning, and Riley O'Brien, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. For the Toronto Blue Jays, they have been a very good over team thus far this season, and they did it all by themselves and then some against Colorado Rockies. How about for the Blue Jays, top over team in all of baseball, 64 overs, 47 unders, and 5 pushes as they take it to the Colorado Rockies 20-1. Going deep for Toronto in this one, you have Vlad Guerrero Jr. get his 18th home run season, Bo Bichette his 16th, Ernie Clement his 6th home run of the season, and then you had home runs number 6 and 7 of the campaign for Mr. Schneider, Davis Schneider, as this was just a home run parade in this one for Colorado. They get to Kyle Freeland for 6 runs and 4 2/3 innings, and then you had in the 9th inning, Austin Nola, the backup catcher, give up 8 runs in an inning. That is the brother of Aaron Nola, did not channel his inner Aaron Nola there, but Nick Anderson was able to give you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Duggar Darnell was able to give you 9 out of the bullpen scoreless as well, but Victor Vodnik gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Anel Shavili got 1 out, and he gave up 4 runs, and Jaden Hill was able to give you 9 out of the bullpen scoreless. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, Kevin Gausman, rock solid, 1 run allowed in 7 innings. Braden Fisher, Tommy Nance from there, they both polish off a scoreless inning. The Miami Marlins are just 1 game below 500. They nice surprise this year, 6-4. They take down the Houston Astros. Spencer Arrighetti looked more like mom spaghetti. 5 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings, including a home run as he was taken deep by Mr. Alberto Hernandez, his 6th home run of the campaign. And then it was home run number 2 from Graham Pauly as he goes deep off of Hector Neris for Neris, gives up a home run in his inning work. Brian King, Caleb Orp, both on the scoreless inning. Ben Sosa, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. And for Miami, Jansen Junk, well, he wasn't great, but he wasn't junk either. 3 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, including home run to Christian Walker, 16th home run season. But from there, you did have Anthony Bender give up a run in an inning, but Calvin Fauché, Lake Bakar, Ronnie Enriquez, they're all able to give you a scoreless inning. And the Tampa Bay Rays, they're able to give you a 5-4 win over the LA Angels. As for the Rays, Shane Baz, the Wizard of Baz, was not great. 4 runs allowed in 4 innings, including a home run surrendered as it was home run number 20 of the campaign for Mike Trout. From there, everyone was very rock solid in this bullpen, though. Edwin Uceta, Garrett Clevenger, Brian Baker, Griffin Jacks, Pete Fairbanks all lend a scoreless inning. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, how about a quartet of home runs? Christopher Morel, 8th home run season. Junior Cam Minero, 29th and 30th home runs of the campaign. And Nick Fortes, his 3rd home run season. As for Mr. Anderson, Tyler Anderson, he gives up 4 runs in 4 innings, including 3 of those bombs. Ryan Zephyrian gives up a home run in his inning work. Brock and Rollberg, Connor Brogdon, Reed Detmer, Kenley Jansen, all on the scoreless inning, but damage by then had been done. And you had the Athletics be unable to do damage to the Washington Nationals. 2-1 the final. As for the A's, they go 0-6 with men in scoring position. Jeffrey Springs pretty solid in this one. Solo home run allowed in 6 innings of work to Riley Adams, 7th home run of the campaign. Michael Kelly gives up the walk-off RBI single to C.J. Abrams that ends it in the 9th inning, and Sean Newcomb, 2 scoreless innings. Tyler Soderstrom, lone form of offense for the A's 20th home run of the season. That comes off of Connor Pilkington, who gave up that home run in 1 1/3 innings. You had Cole Henry, Jose Ferrer, both on the scoreless inning for Cade Cavili, 4 1/3 inning scoreless, and Shinakuzi Ogasawa, he was able to come in for 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless as well. The Atlanta Braves just continue to lose games now, 47-66, 5-4. The Brewers get the job done as they're up to an MLB best 70 wins as Blake Perkins gets his third home run season off of Spencer Strider, and Strider gives one up to Andrew Vaughn, his 12th home run of the campaign. Strider gives up 11 hits, 5 runs, and 4 2/3 innings. From there, Aaron Bummer did not live up to his same 2 1/3 inning scoreless. Desmond Hernandez, Racio Iglesias both landed scoreless inning, and pair of bombs here for Atlanta as you did have Michael Harris get his 10th home run season, and Jurickson Profar his 5th. For Profar goes deep off of Jose Quintana, who gives up 3 runs in 6 innings. From there, Jared Koenig, Abner Uribe led a scoreless inning, and Trevor McGill gave up a solo home run in the 9th inning, but it was enough to be able to get the job done. As the Red Sox, they were unable to get the job done against the Kansas City Royals, this by a count of 7-3. All of a sudden, Royals are starting to play a few more overs, as for the Royals, Michael Wacha, solid start, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. Lucas Ursich gives up a run in an inning, but Hunter Harvey, Carlos Aceves, they both turn a scoreless inning, and Jonathan India, 6th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Jordan Hicks. For Hicks, he gives up 3 runs in his inning of work. You did have Isaiah Campbell come in for 2 innings. He allowed a run, and you had Chris Murphy lend 2 1/3 innings scoreless, and Dustin May, his first start with the Red Sox, not exactly what he planned. 3 runs allowed, and he was only able to make it 3 2/3 innings. So a little bit of an issue there, and I do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, so doing this a little bit in advance. But in the 8th inning, right now it's the Seattle Mariners leading the Chicago White Sox by a count of 8-5 as the Cannon, Jonathan Cannon, was shot out of a cannon. 7 runs allowed in 5 outs as Josh Naylor took him deep, 14th home run season, and Julio Rodriguez, his 21st home run of the season. From there, you did have Tyler Alexander come in long relief for 4 1/3 innings scoreless. Steven Wilson gives up a run with a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and then Brandon Eisert and out of the bullpen scoreless. And for the White Sox, pair of bombs of their own as Edward Bazardo gives up a pair. Mike Tauchman, 8th home run season, and then you had Mr. Lennon Sosa get his 13th home run of the season. For George Kirby, gives up 2 runs in his 6 innings of work. Bazardo does give up 3 runs in his inning, including those 2 bombs, but Gabe Spire from there was able to hold down the fort. And unless if something insane happens, the Mariners will get the job done there. And also being able to get the job done, the New York Yankees, 3-2. They take down the Walker Texas Rangers as for New York, Carlos Rodon, pretty solid start, 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. From there, David Bednar does not poop the Bednar, 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Yuri De Los Santos, Tim Hill, they both lend a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Mark Leiter Jr., a scoreless inning, and Paul Goldschmidt, who's been rough here in the summer months, 10th home run season, that comes off of Robert Garcia. Garcia does give up that solo home run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Jack Leiter unable to go deep in this game, 3 1/3 innings, only allows 2 runs, one of which was earned, but could have used a little bit more length. You had from there Cole Winn lend 2 scoreless innings, Jordan Armstrong, and out of the bullpen squirrels, and Homie Milner was able to give you 2 2/3 innings out of the bullpen scoreless as well. And then this game is just wrapping up as I'm doing this as well. You've right now got the Slam Diego Padres up on the Arizona Diamondbacks by a count of 3-2. That is in the 9th inning, so we will see if anything progresses from here. But for San Diego, Nestor Cortez made his Padres debut, not necessarily what he was looking for. 2 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings, and he was taken deep by Corbin Carroll, 23rd home run season. For Anthony DeSclafani, not a lot of length, but this was what he was looking for. 4 1/3 innings squirrels. From there, Jalen Beeks, 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. But from here, the Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen has really cratered. You've had 2 runs allowed in an inning by Kyle Bacchus. Jake Woodford, he was able to come in and get you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and then you did have a run given up in an inning by John Curtis with 2 S's as he allows a solo run to one Mr. Xander Bogaerts, 9th home run of the season, and then you did have Ryan O'Hearn go deep off of Bacchus in the 9th inning, 14th home run of the campaign there. And right now for the Padres, you've had Adrian Morejon give you 2 scoreless innings, and Jason Adam 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise at what we're getting in baseball right now, it has been a bit of an underwhelming season thus far, but we are starting to see some overs come in. Overall for the campaign, the under rate is at 51.9%, 854 unders to 791 overs, with favorites sitting on the money line at 56.7%. They're 965 and 737. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, favorites are having a little bit of a rough time, 46 and 41 on the money line. Meanwhile, the under rate, that is at just 42.9%, 48 overs to 36 unders. So that's where we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Wednesday. Now let's talk with our good friend Tanner Kern about the playoff race and so much more right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Tanner Kern aboard, who does such an excellent job over at DraftKings, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he is very hard at work, taking a look at all that we're getting in this wonderful sport. I know that he's doing a little bit of everything over there at DraftKings, as I know that he's been doing a little bit of UFC work. He's been gearing up for some football as well. You name it, he does it, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at his first and last name, Tanner Kern, and an underscore after that. And Tanner, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Tanner. And Tanner, how do you take a look at this landscape of baseball right now? Because we're about a week removed from the trade deadline, and post-trade deadline, all these guys are now with their new respective teams, and I think that it's still, even after the trade deadline, just as wide open as it gets, both in the National League and the American League.
Yeah, it is wide open, but we're also starting to see the teams that can really contend for those 3 wild card spots and for the division in those cases. So you look at the Toronto Blue Jays and the Boston Red Sox. New York Yankees potentially can climb back in the American League East, but right now I see that one as a 2-horse race until the Yankees can start playing better. The AL Central seems pretty locked down with the Tigers there. You know, the Astros and the Mariners, I think, are going to be very competitive in the West. Same thing with the Rangers, and all those teams obviously will be in the wild card mix as well if they're not in the lead in the division. The National League, a little bit different there. I think that wild card race is not necessarily sewn up, but you have the Cubs, Mets, Padres, and Reds right now, and then the Cardinals behind them. So I think the Reds are the back end of a team that could make the playoffs, but right now it looks like Cubs, Mets, Padres in that wild card spot, and I don't think that's really going to change as we do approach the end of the season.
Yep, I do think that the wild card is becoming a little bit more, shall we say, clear with regards to the National League, but I still take a look at that American League, and I think that that's really the league that's out there for the taking, because obviously you have a little bit of a divide between the have and have-nots with regards to teams that might be able to get a wild card spot, but I just don't think that there's really any top team out there in the American League, because the Red Sox are starting to surge, but still have a few question marks with them. Obviously, the Blue Jays have fallen back to earth. The Seattle Mariners did a nice job adding at the trade deadline, but I've got my question marks with them, and I think that it's just an open sort of landscape where the Cleveland Guardians are still 2.5 games out of the wild card going into Tuesday.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think the Red Sox, Yankees, Mariners, and Rangers are definitely the top 4 teams going for those spots. And then obviously if the Red Sox were able to jump the Blue Jays would be in that mix. But yeah, the Cleveland Guardians still 2.5 games back. I mean, you look at it, that's very attainable, but at the same time too, 2.5 games right now is still a pretty decent gap, and you can see that when you just look at the playoff odds. Cleveland does have an advantage in their division, playing against some of those teams outside the Tigers, getting the Royals, getting the Twins, getting the White Sox. You are getting those games that you can win. But right now, I do see it as a 4-team race for those 3 spots. I don't necessarily see Cleveland climbing their way back into it. I expect the New York Yankees to be better, obviously, and probably take over that top wild card spot if Aaron Judge can come back and start hitting a little bit. And then the Mariners are also going to be a really deadly team there. So I see Boston, New York, and Seattle better than Texas and Cleveland right now, even though Texas did add at the deadline and the Red Sox really didn't.
Yep, I do agree with you, and I do think that this is going to be such an interesting landscape to be taking a look at. As Tanner Kern, who does such great work over at DraftKings, he's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And then when it comes to the National League side of things, it is quite wide open with regards to those top teams as well, because I love what the Philadelphia Phillies did. I really like them now in that NL East, but obviously with the LA Dodgers, they're the biggest team of mystery. Not that we don't know that there's talent, we just don't know who's going to be healthy with regards to rotation for the playoffs. And I thought that it was really interesting that they didn't add a lot of pitching at the trade deadline, because I thought that that was the biggest need for them. And I think that that's a little bit of a sign that perhaps some of these guys might be returning for the postseason.
Well, they obviously know something too, because they did actually move pitchers off. If you look at the Boston Red Sox, obviously acquiring Dustin May from them, I mean, that was a guy who was starting for them. So when I saw that move, relating into the Dodgers, it made me think, okay, they know that their guys are going to get healthy because they were willing to move off a guy like Dustin May, who, definitely they had no control over next season, and he hasn't really pitched his best, but it's not a body. They don't need that body because they are going to be getting healthy. And, we know the Dodgers in the playoffs, you're going to get Shohei going, full start. You got Yamamoto. There's a lot of guys on this team. Blake Snell came back, looked really good against the Rays, obviously made a few mistakes to Yandy Diaz over the weekend, but overall he was very consistent, got strikeout pitches, and we know the offense is really consistent there too. So I don't have as much fear with the Dodgers come playoff time, because the move that they made to get rid of Dustin May made me confident in their organization, the fact that they know their pitchers are getting healthy.
And we're doing this ahead of Dustin May's start on Wednesday, but how do you think that he might be able to impact the Boston Red Sox? Because I know that you're a man that's out there in the great state of Massachusetts, so I know you've got a little bit of a rooting interest with regards to this team, but I think that he's such an interesting team for a bunch in Boston that they didn't make a lot of moves at the trade deadline, but we saw them trade away Rafael Devers, and it's become very clear that they didn't have to make a lot of moves because they just have a lot of faith in the guys that they've got in-house right now.
Yeah, I think it came down to that too. I think it comes down to the analytics and the numbers, and saying that, maybe going to get Joe Ryan for what they had to give up was a bad mathematical move by the computer. But if you're actually going for it, it's really not. So I think it's a combination of that. And I think it's confidence in their guys as well. Eric Roche has been fantastic. Brian Bayo looked really good. Lucas Giolito, the second half of his season so far. It's hard to say with these guys, though, because you feel like the inevitable fall off is coming. But right now they're pitching great. And I think Dustin May slots into the fourth role very well there. The Red Sox are going to try to do what they can do to fix him. There's only so much they can do in the time that they have with them, but we know May has it in him to be a strong starter in this league. He just hasn't necessarily found it this year. But I think for a number 4 for the Boston Red Sox right now, it's better than some of the options that they've had to throw at times this season. He's 6'6", 180. He's got length. He's got good movement on his off-speed stuff, got a strong fastball. So I think he fits in well. We'll see what he can do. But it definitely doesn't hurt the Red Sox. I just don't know if it moves them closer to where they need to go, and that's ultimately an American League championship.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that it's going to be a lot of intrigue with regards to this Boston Red Sox team, because I do feel like they've got a lot of upside in the American League. And I think that that's a lot of what people should be looking at with regards to the American League, because I do think that there are some clear upside teams. Like we were just talking about the Red Sox, the Texas Rangers are a team that has really been able to figure it out on offense as well. I think that that's just the way that you take a look at things in terms of futures market right now, because short shots in a league like the American League where it's wide open is not something that I want to be gambling on, because I do think that in this day and age with a 5-game or a 7-game series, unless if you've got some really dominant front-end starting pitching, which I don't know if there's a single American League team that might have that other than perhaps the Texas Rangers now with Jacob deGrom, Merrill Kelly and company. That's just something that I feel like you get a little bit, shall we say, haywire. I think that allows for a lot of these underdogs to present some value.
Yeah, and if you are in that mindset, get your bets in now, right? I look at the Boston Red Sox, for example, minus 500 to make the playoffs, but you go back a couple weeks ago, they were 3-1 to make the playoffs, right? So you got to get your bets in early with these teams, because the odds are going to continue to drop as the top contenders establish themselves. Like I'm kicking myself for not betting on the Red Sox to win the division back when they were 14-1 or even 20-1 to win the division. Now hindsight's 2020, but this is a long season. We're starting to come down to the wire. So those teams like the Blue Jays right now are plus 430 to win the American League. That's only going to get shorter. The Seattle Mariners plus 550. The time to get on them was before the trade deadline, obviously, when they were closer to 8-1. But, get on these teams now, because I do expect the Seattle Mariners to take off the Red Sox, potentially the Texas Rangers, getting good value on them at 12-1. But if you like Texas, bet it right now, because if they start turning it on and getting in the mix for the playoffs, those odds are going to significantly drop, because bookmakers know just how even these teams actually are. And I totally agree with you, Greg, when it comes to the rotation. The Rangers do have one of the best 1, 2, 3 punches now. And that's going to make a huge difference in a 5-game series or a 7-game series.
Yep, no question about it. It is going to. And really, the main contender that we're going to be seeing from the American League that's going to be in action on Thursday, as we've only got four games in action, and you really don't have any playoff on playoff action here. That is going to be the Seattle Mariners. And how do you view this team now that they pick up Eugenio Suarez, now that they pick up Josh Naylor? Because that's another team that I think when they're fully healthy, the likes of Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, and Luis Castillo, that's a pretty good rotation right there. It's a solid bullpen. And for the Seattle Mariners, I know that they've had a lot of struggles with their strikeouts in the past, and you still do have some boom or bust guys in that lineup, but I thought it was really nice that they went for it at the trade deadline, and they really left no stone unturned.
Yeah, and if you're going to go for it, this is the year to do it when there's so much parity in the American League right now. I mean, you got Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Brian Wu. That's a really good starting rotation coming out in a playoff series. And, you know, what they did with the bats, too, adding Josh Naylor, I think a lot of people forget about that one because it was earlier than the actual trade deadline. But he's going to be a huge addition to this team. Eugenio Suarez is going to be massive for them. And that adds to a lineup that really was struggling. I mean, the Mariners were struggling with runners in scoring position, struggling to get the big hit. There's only so much Cal Raleigh can do for this team. So adding those guys in really makes a big difference. And, you know, when you look at it on paper, as good as Detroit's been, obviously they have a stacked pitching lineup. I think the Mariners are probably the biggest threat to the Tigers or whoever is at the top of the American League when it's all said and done, just because they are loaded with pitching now. They added offense to a strong lineup with Cal Raleigh, obviously one of the American League favorites to win MVP. So I think this team's really good. I'm very excited to see what they do. Now, if they don't go to at least the American League Championship Series, it was all for a waste, but they have the talent to do it. And I'd slot them in right number 2, probably behind the Detroit Tigers when it comes to their talent.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that this is a bunch that can really be able to make a nice surge. And I do think that with the Mariners, they've got firepower both at the plate and with regards to both their starting pitching and their bullpen pitching. So do love to see that. And just with regards to the way that you're viewing things, Tanner, is there a team or two that you're feeling either bullish/bearish on based on how they've been able to perform the last few weeks? And they're a team that you're looking to either back or fade here in the next few weeks?
Well, when it comes to the Red Sox, you know, they've been a streaky team all season right now. They're in that winning streak period. So if that's a team that you like, that you're getting good odds on, I would take them right now. You know, you kind of tell with Boston when they take off and when they cool down, and they can't really shake it. You know, another team that I'm looking at specifically is the Seattle Mariners, too, in the American League, going out to Texas, winning a 4-game series. They're taking 3 of 4. That was an impressive series win for them, moving them in the right direction, doing exactly what they needed to do. And then another team potentially that's playing really good baseball right now, San Diego Padres. They look very strong. They added a deadline. This is the year they're going for it. And they have a really good roster with strong pitching, you know, obviously a loaded offense, especially if they can get a little more production, you know, from a guy like Xander Bogaerts, for example. So I would say the Padres in the National League right now, and then Mariners, Red Sox in the American League.
Yep, no question about it. And I do think that it's going to be a great race moving forward, both out there in the National League and the American League. I can't remember a year where it's felt this open in baseball. And Tanner, we get a front row seat to it. I know you're doing a tremendous job over at DraftKings with a little bit of everything, whether that be baseball, UFC, when it's that season basketball, list goes on and on. You do a little bit of everything. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yep, so you can check me out on DraftKings Sportsbook social pages every single day, and then on my personals at Tanner Kern or at Tanner Kern _ depending on the platform. And then YouTube, you can check me out, Ride the Line podcast every Tuesday and Friday with our friend Grant Mitchell, and then also audio-wise wherever you get your podcast, but primarily on YouTube there.
Yep, absolutely. And Tanner, he does such an incredible job taking a look at this great game of baseball, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insights. So big thanks to Tanner for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. Always great to be joined by Tanner Kern, who does such amazing work over at DraftKings. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Really, he does a great job on so many different fronts, whether that be football, basketball, he does some hockey, he does some UFC, you name it, he does it. And every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. So big thanks to Tanner for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we're going to go with the two National League games first, the American League game, and then the lone interleague game that's going to be at the bottom. So very thin day of baseball today, and it starts with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're onto the road facing off against the Pittsburgh Pirates, as it is Paul Skeens on the bump for the Buccos, and Brady Singer hopes to have the Buccos singing the blues for the Reds. The total on this game is 7. The over is -120, and the under is even for the Pirates. They're between -170 to -180 favorites. Right now, with the Reds, you're going to be able to get them between +149 to a +154, and I just feel like the price has gone too far on this Pittsburgh Pirates team. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Reds. I was willing to take anything of a +143 or higher. This is not a fate of Paul Skeens. This is a fate of everyone not named Paul Skeens. As for the Pittsburgh Pirates, despite the fact that last weekend they were playing in Colorado and they played a harebrained and very crazy series with the Colorado Rockies, they're still dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, averaging about 3.55 runs per game. You've got 3 guys on the roster with more than 5 home runs this year. Like, you're just getting absolutely no power whatsoever out of these guys. You have been able to have O'Neal Cruz along with Brian Reynolds and Andrew McCutchen give you those home runs, but even for Cruz, the batting average is below a 220, and there's just a poo-poo platter of different guys that are right now hitting below a 220 for this team, with Henry Davis, Alexander Canario, Emmanuel Valdez, along with Jared Trollo. Like, all these guys have just not been able to perform for this team. Now, the Pirates bullpen has actually not been too bad. Even though they trade away David Benarm, you still do have a few reliable pieces in this bullpen, as you've been able to get some good production out of Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana, a pair of guys are right now registering a sub-275 ERA. Braxton Ashcraft, he's been relatively solid as a long guy at about a 325, so these guys are good, and they're bringing back Dory Moretto, who's with a little bit of an injury, and I think that he might have some upside as well. And then for the Cincinnati Reds, it has been a bullpen that has been a little bit, shall we say, up and down this season. Emilio Pagan is a guy that gives up a lot of homers, but has been able to supply the team with a sub-3.5 ERA. You've been able to get a lot of production out of some of these guys like Tony Santillan, who's been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. They did trade away Taylor Rogers at the deadline, so that is a little bit of a blow for this bullpen, but overall I do think that they're going to be able to do a nice job of being able to hold down the fort, even with having Graham Ashcraft being up and down this season, as you've got a Cincinnati Reds lineup that is headlined by Ellie De La Cruz. He's been incredible this year. He's supplying you with over 20 stolen bases, a 360 on base, the 19 plus home runs, so you have to love to see that. But I mean, you do have other guys that do a solid job in terms of moving the line as well. TJ Friedel, about a 375 on base. You've been able to get good production out of Gavin Lux with a 350 on base. Austin Hayes coming off the injured list, giving the team 10 home runs and hitting a 265 is big as well. You've had Matt McLean hit a little bit better. He's still hitting only about a 223, but I mean, he was hitting a 200 for much of the season, so that's a little bit of progress. You have Noah Voley Marte coming off the injured list, hitting about a 275 as well. And for Brady Singer, he's been much better ever since a really, really rough run to begin the season. For Brady Singer, the big issue for him has been the walks have been up this year. He's been giving up about 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but still getting about 8.5 punch-outs per 9 innings. He has now given up 300 runs or fewer in 11 out of his last 13 starts, and in 4 out of his last 5. I do think that for Singer, he gives you a good start here, and he gets the job done for the Reds. So we'll take plus 144 or higher on that money line, and think that you're in for a low-scoring slog. So my total 6.8. I'm in on the under. 953, 954 on the betting board. It is the Miami Marlins, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the Atlanta Braves. We do know that Eury Perez is going to be on the bump for the Marlins, and right now it's all to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the Bravos. So this is a game that is presently off the board. Right now, according to CBS Sports, it's going to be Carlos Cookie Carrasco, and I would be setting the Miami Marlins as a good-sized favorite if this is the case. I was also seeing Bryce Elder out there. Either way, I would be favoring the Marlins. It would be more like a minus 118 if it's against Carrasco, more like a minus 108 against Bryce Elder, and either way, in F or less, looking at the over, a 9 or higher, I'll be in on the under. For Eury Perez, it took him a few starts to be able to reacclimate after coming off the injured list and after coming off a major surgery, but this guy looks like the guy that we all know and love from a few seasons ago, and he has just been absolutely pumping this season. 9.2 strikeouts, only allowing 0.4 home runs per 9 innings as well. He's only given up 2 home runs in his 50 innings in total, so I mean, that has been very impressive for him. He's been relatively consistent here recently, giving up a combined 4 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts, and this is a Miami Marlins bullpen that slowly and steadily has been able to improve as well. The likes of Tyler Phillips, Kay Gibson, Lake Bakar, these are now guys that are able to give you an ERA that is below a 3.55, so that is very encouraging for the Miami Marlins. They've also been a whole heck of a lot better with regards to their production on the road rather than at home with their offense, and that makes sense because you've got a ballpark out there in Miami that is very, very pitcher friendly, to say the least. So you've got a Miami Marlins team that's only averaging about 3.8 runs per game at home, closer to about 4.8 runs per game away from home, with Kyle Stowers just doing an absolutely tremendous job of delivering for the team. 23 plus home runs. His on-base percentage is a 370. Augustin Ramirez has been able to give you 15 plus home runs as well, so he's been able to do a nice job of stepping up in terms of the power, as this is a Miami Marlins team that they are still in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. They're sort of mixing and matching some of these young guys, but you do have Xavier Edwards at the top of the lineup hitting above a 290, and he's been able to do an amazing job of getting on base. And the young gun that I really like is Roberto Hernandez. 5 home runs in his first 110 at-bats. He's been hitting darn near 300 for this team as well. And then for the Atlanta Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr. being out of the fold really hurts this team. You saw Matt Olson, who's been able to spy over a 360 on base. He's up to 18 home runs. And you still have some solid power hitters out there. 16 home runs out of Sean Murphy along with Austin Riley. 15 bombs out of Marcell Ozuna. Ozuna has been able to give you about a 370 on base. But the big bugaboo has been Michael Harris and Ozzy Albies. A pair of guys with 9 home runs apiece. Harris has given you just a 259 on base. Both of these guys hitting below a 238, so you just needed a lot more out of them. Drake Baldwin has been sort of ho-hum recently, but 350 on base. He's been able to give a double-figure amount of homers, actually the leader in the clubhouse if you're looking at the betting odds for NL Rookie of the Year, so shout out to him. And Eli White, he's been able to about a 250, but it's not really giving you a whole heck of a lot of power either. And this has been a Braves bullpen that ever since the beginning of the month of June, they are a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had a few guys be able to step up in this bullpen. Pierce Johnson, Dylan Lee, both below a 3.5 ERA. Austin Cox has actually been relatively solid as a long guy as well, but when you have Rossio Iglesias just going out there blowing game after game, that is a big giant issue for you. And additionally, Dylan Dodd and these mix and match guys, Aaron Bummer, posting up over a 4.4 ERA, that is not necessarily amazing. So this is a circumstance where at a minus 118, I'd be willing to lay it with the Miami Marlins if it is Carlos Carrasco, closer to a minus 108. If they're going up against Bryce Elder, we need at least a plus 109 to back the Braves with Elder, plus 119 or higher with Carlos Carrasco on the 8.5 or less, and on the over a 9 or higher. The under, 955, 956 on the card. We've got the Chicago White Sox on the road against the Seattle Mariners. Logan Gilbert is on the bump for the M's, and Shane Smith goes for the White Sox. White Sox are very sizable underdogs here. You're going to be finding that between a plus 223 to a plus 213. Meanwhile, between minus 250 to minus 268, that number on Seattle, and the total is 7.5. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. If you're looking to lay a run half right now, the initial FanDuel opener is a minus 118, and I'd be willing to lay that run line. I'm willing to go up to a minus 123 for Logan Gilbert. The 3.45 ERA, it's not amazing, but if you take a look at the, shall we say, ancillary numbers, a 275 field dependent, he has been a strikeout artist for the team this season, while not really giving up too much of the deep ball. He's given up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, about 12.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he is backed up by one of the better bullpens that you're going to find in all of baseball, with the likes of Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Edward Bazardo, Gabe Spire, all being able to give you a sub-3 ERA. And for the Chicago White Sox, they've actually been a halfway decent bullpen this year. They're in now the upper half of the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA, so that's something that's very encouraging for you. Mike Vasil has been a good long guy for this team with a sub-3 ERA. You've got the likes of a Dan Altavilla along with Steven Wilson supplying a sub-3 ERA. Unfortunately, Altavilla has just hit the injured list, so that's not necessarily amazing for them, but you still do have some of these guys are a little bit less than trustworthy. Brandon Iser, Grant Taylor, Jordan Leisure, they're posting up above a 4.2 ERA, but for the White Sox, the big issue that you've got for this team, the offense says you've had a quartet of guys hit between 12 and 14 home runs, Luis Robert, Lennon Sosa, Miguel Vargas, and Andrew Benintendi, but other than Lennon Sosa is hitting about a 280, none of these guys hitting above a 231, so you're not getting a lot of average there, and you just have a cavalcade of different guys for this team that are hitting a 220 or lower. Robert is one of them, Josh Rojas, Joshua Palacios, Michael A. Taylor. You're able to throw in there Tim Elko whenever he's been up at the big league level, as he's been up, down, all around for this team. It's just been not great, to say the least. I do think that Logan Gilbert going to do a nice job shutting them down, and additionally, you've got a Seattle Mariners team that is now revamped with regards to their lineup. You bring in Josh Naylor with over a 350 on base, and you Eugenio Suarez with over 35 home runs. He's been able to supply over a 325 on base. Cal Raleigh, big dumper, obviously leading the big leagues in home runs, as going into Wednesday he was up to 42 bombs. And J.P. Crawford has been solid in terms of moving the line as well. He's been able to give this team about a 350 on base. Julio Rodriguez, Roy Polanco, they've been lost in the shuffle of all the moves that they made, but I think these guys have been solid too, both hitting about a 255, 18 home runs for Polanco. Julio Rodriguez is up to 20, and Randy Rosarena very silently has had a really good last 2 months or so, up to about a 350 on base with 22 bombs. So I did set my total 7.4 with the Seattle Mariners. While they average over 5 runs per game away from home, only about 3.9 runs per game at home. And Shane Smith is not the world's worst pitcher. He is giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings with a 4.25 ERA, but he's been able to keep the ball in the yard, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, 8.4 punch-outs per 9 as well. So I do think that this is going to be a well-pitched game. I like the 7.5 under, and the Mariners up to a minus 123 on that run line. 957, 958 is the last game, as the Athletics are on the road against the Washington Nationals. Mitchell Parker is on the bump for the Nats, and Jacob Lopez goes for the Athletics. The Athletics are anywhere between minus 125 to minus 132 favorites. Plus 108 to plus 113 is that number on Washington. 9 is the total. The over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. And with the Washington Nationals, I was willing to take a plus 112 or higher on that money line. I recognize that it's not been a great year for Mitchell Parker, as Mitchell Parker just does not really give you much deception. He does not give you a lot of swing and miss, as for the season, only 5.9 strikeouts to 3.3 walks per 9 innings, 5.35 ERA. Now, he does have closer to a 4.63 fielding independent, and he's given up 2 runs or fewer in 2 out of his last 3 starts, so things might be turning around a little bit for Mitchell Parker. He started out the year doing a really good job of keeping the ball in the yard. That really did torpedo downward towards the middle part of the season, but he's also been a little bit better when he has been in Washington rather than when he has been away from home. For Parker, a 4.77 home ERA with less than a home run allowed per 9 innings. That balloons up to about 1.4 to 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and a 6.10 ERA away from home. Meanwhile, for Jacob Lopez, he's been able to do a really good job of becoming a strikeout artist for this Athletics team. Now, he does need to hone in the walks a little bit. He's given up 3.9 walks per 9 innings, but about 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.99 ERA, closer to a 4.38 fielding independent. Comes in having allowed 2 runs or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts. Now, again, 2 plus walks allowed in each out of his last 4 as well. So if you're looking at walks props, that's one that you might be on the lookout for. And for this Athletics bullpen, it has been not great, to say the least, as for the Athletics, no longer do they have Mason Miller in their bullpen, but that said, you do have Michael Kelly, and you've also had John Newcomb be able to supply a sub-4 ERA, but then past that, those are 2 good guys that are in for long relief. More of the shorter guys, they're not getting the job done, the likes of Hogan Harris, Justin Sterner, even now Jack Perkins, who's been utilized a little bit more in a long role, Grant Holman. You go down the list of guys that are right now posting up above a 3.95 ERA. It is rampant, but you do have an Athletics lineup that has been very athletic. You've got Brent Rooker along with Nick Kurtz, both at 23 home runs apiece. Both have been stuck on 23 home runs for a little bit of time, but Kurtz is still giving you a home run every about 11 or so at bats, hitting above a 300. Jacob Wilson continues at above a 300 for this unit as well. Lawrence Butler has done a pretty solid job in terms of swiping bags. He's up to 15 home runs this season, and Tyler Soderstrom, the 19 home runs and the 333 on base. That has been pretty rock solid. They did have to trade away Miguel Andujar at the trade deadline, but still a lot of guys that have been able to step up, do a solid job for this team. And for the Washington Nationals, they've got some very interesting home and road splits. As for Washington, it's been playing a little bit pitcher friendly this year when they have been at home. For the Nationals overall, they're averaging about 4.1 runs per game at home, closer to about 4.6 runs per game away from home, as you've only got 2 guys on the roster with above 3 home runs at home this far this season. Nathaniel Lowe was up to 15 home runs in total, but he's sitting at 221, and then you've had James Wood give you good Wood, 24 home runs, but he has really, I don't think he had a home run ever since the All-Star break. He has gone cold with that regard. He's still posting up a 360 on base, so Josh Bell has been pretty solid with a 323 on base. He had a really rough start to the season, but now he's starting to find it a little bit more. You've got CJ Abrams, who's only hit 3 of his 14 home runs at home, but he overall for the season has been able to about a 275 as well. Team did trade away Alex Call at the deadline, so you're looking at a lot of these younger guys like a Robert Hassel, Dalen Lyles, even throw in there Brady House to be able to give you some production. And House is getting about a 250, Lyle in that neighborhood as well. Not necessarily getting a lot of power out of these guys, but I do think that for the Washington Nationals, they are going to step up a little bit more with this bullpen, because honestly, it can't get a lot worse. You got 2 of the worst bullpens in all baseball going at it in this one. The Nationals did trade away Kyle Finnegan at the deadline. You've still been able to have Cole Henry give you a sub 4 ERA, so that's encouraging. And Connor Pilkington in a small sample size hasn't been bad. Past that, it has been pretty rough for this bullpen. bullpen, likes of Jackson Rutledge, Orlando Rabada, Jose Ferrer, Andre Lara, all these guys posting up above a 5 ERA. So this is a total that I set at a 9.2. I'm going to be in on this total over. And for the Athletics, I made them only a minus 112 favorite, so a plus 113 or higher. I'm in on the Nationals on the money line. And that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Tanner Kern of DraftKings for joining me in the last segment. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, naming does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast by that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.